Good morning, you're watching A News. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the top stories. Tariffs remain in place. Trade negotiations are continuing. The White House says after a court ruling briefly blocked President Donald Trump's trade actions. Israel has agreed to a US ceasefire proposal for Gaza. Hamas said it was reviewing the plan. Uzbekistan and Italy signed a joint declaration on strengthening their strategic partnership. Tariffs remain in place. Trade negotiations are continuing. The White House says after a court ruling briefly blocked President Donald Trump's trade actions. The New York-based Court of International Trade ruled that Trump overstepped his authority by imposing the import levies last month. US President Donald Trump filed an emergency motion to stop a recent ruling that blocked his global tariffs.
A federal appeals court temporarily reinstated the most sweeping of US President Donald Trump's tariffs on Thursday. This came just one day after a US trade court ruled that the president had overstepped his authority and ordered an immediate halt to the tax hikes. The US Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit in Washington, D.C. said it was pausing the lower court's ruling while it considers the government's appeal. It gave the plaintiffs until the 5th of June to respond, and the administration must file its reply by the 9th of June. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro insists the administration is prepared to act on multiple fronts if needed. For now, the tariffs remain in place.
There's no plan B, it's plan A, okay? Plan A encompasses all strategic options, and when we move forward, we had a full view of what the battlefield looks like. We are not naive about rogue justices in the judiciary.
Thank you very much.
The trade court had earlier ruled that Trump went beyond his powers by using emergency law to impose broad tariffs, stating that only Congress has the authority to set duties. Despite the ruling, the White House is standing its ground. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the decision judicial overreach and said the Supreme Court must back the president. Trump also warned that judgment, if upheld, would weaken presidential power. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said trade negotiations are continuing, with no signs that America's trading partners are backing away.
We have not seen any of that in terms of our trading partners. They are coming to us in good faith and trying to complete the deals before the 90-day pause ends. So we've seen no change in their attitude in the past 48 hours. As a matter of fact, I have a very large Japanese delegation coming to my office first thing tomorrow morning.
White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett also highlighted progress continues on several trade deals despite the court's ruling.
I saw last week, at the end of the week, 3 that were basically ready for the president's decision. I don't know if people have had that conversation with him yet, but yes, there are many, many deals coming, and there were 3 that are basically look like they're done.
Trump's tariff strategy has shaken financial markets for months. On Thursday, US stocks closed slightly higher as investors reacted to both the court news and corporate earnings. The S&P 500, Nasdaq and Dow all posted modest gains. Analysts say uncertainty remains. With the Court of Appeals now reviewing the case, both sides are preparing to make their arguments. For now, Trump's tariffs stay in place. US stocks ended slightly higher on Thursday, while investors digested the late afternoon court ruling.
Cargo at the port of Los Angeles, the busiest in the US, has dropped sharply due to high tariffs on Chinese goods and legal uncertainty, according to the director of the port, Jean Soroka. As the holiday shipping season nears, importers are facing major problems.
The head of the busiest port in the United States, the Port of Los Angeles, says that uncertainty among importers is increasing. The reason, President Donald Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods and the ongoing legal disputes surrounding them. According to the director of the port, Jean Soroka, says this situation is negatively affecting preparations for the holiday season. It's after the US Court of International Trade tried to block the tariffs this week. However, the Federal Appeals Court has temporarily reinstated them. The port's director says that imports of goods for the back-to-school period and the holiday season have decreased. In May, cargo volume dropped significantly compared to the same period last year, with some weeks seeing a 30% decline. 10 vessel arrivals scheduled for June have been cancelled, 5 of which were planned for the first week of the month. The Port of Los Angeles is a key entry point for goods from China, and major companies such as Walmart and Ford rely on it. Last month, Trump imposed a 145% tariff on Chinese goods, halting many shipments to the US. Due to shipping delays, the impact on cargo volume was felt 2 to 3 weeks later. Even though the US and China agreed earlier this month to temporarily reduce tariffs to 30%, the situation remains unstable. The Federal Appeals Court says the plaintiffs in the legal challenge can respond by the 5th of June and the Trump administration by the 9th of June, suggesting that uncertainty will likely continue in the coming days.
Previously, our Andy Mioch discussed the recent developments of Trump's tariffs with Daniela Mello, a political scientist from Boston, USA. Daniela explained the current situation in US political circles and how this influences President Donald Trump's current trade policies.
In fact, there are still more questions than answers at this moment. It is a fact that the Constitution indeed allows Congress and only Congress the power to establish tariffs in international trade for the United States. However, this Congress, which is controlled by the Republican Party, which is President Trump's party, has been particularly lenient in imposing itself and its duties, its tasks on the executive branch. What I mean to say is that this has not been a Congress that has often pushed back against President Trump's desire to basically take on this power, which is attributed to Congress, onto the executive office. So what's particularly puzzling here is that because the president has, in fact, the ability to ask Congress, a Congress that is, once again, led by his own party, the president has the ability to ask Congress to actually approve these tariffs, and he would probably be able to get them approved with this Congress. His party has been very effective at whipping the vote and making sure that they vote together to support the president in these issues. So here what we have is really a legal battle. It is, despite what the administration claims, the administration, in fact, has claimed that the courts are overreaching, not just on this issue, but on many other issues. But this is exactly the type of issue that the courts should be deciding over, because it is indeed an issue of constitutionality. It would be unwise for blocs like the European Union or for China to suddenly halt all types of negotiations with the executive branch, because regardless of what the courts decide on this issue, and if the decision comes from the courts, it is unlikely that it will favor the executive branch on this topic. But regardless of what that decision is, once again, the political moment is that the president, in fact, also has the control of Congress through the control of his party. So it is unlikely, like if you're the European Union and if you're China and you're negotiating with the United States, you're not going to stop these negotiations and further infuriate the president and perhaps get even more threats coming out of the White House that destabilize not just the American economy, but the global economy. So I would say, yes, the wise path is to continue negotiating and let the American courts play their role.
The White House says Israel has accepted a US-backed 60-day Gaza ceasefire plan presented by US envoy Steve Witkoff. While Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has not confirmed it, Hamas says it's reviewing the plan. The deal calls for the release of 28 Israeli hostages in exchange for 125 Palestinian prisoners and 180 bodies, along with immediate aid to Gaza. Israeli media reports that Netanyahu has informed the families of hostages of Israel's agreement to the deal. Hamas says the plan lacks commitments to end the war, withdraw troops and unblock aid. Israel insists that Hamas must disarm and release hostages before peace can be achieved. Meanwhile, a US-backed aid program in Gaza has expanded to a third site, delivering nearly 1.8 million meals, according to officials.
I can confirm that Special Envoy Witkoff and the president submitted a ceasefire proposal to Hamas that Israel backed and supported. Israel signed off on this proposal before it was sent to Hamas. I can also confirm that those discussions are continuing, and we hope that a ceasefire in Gaza will take place so we can return all of the hostages home, and that's been a priority from this administration from the beginning. I won't comment further as we are in the midst of this right now.
So to be clear, you don't know if Hamas has accepted it yet?
Not to my knowledge, but certainly if that becomes the case and this ceasefire goes into effect, you'll hear it directly from myself, the president, or Special Envoy Witkoff.
The United States has told the United Nations Security Council that its ceasefire plan is Russia's best possible deal and urges President Vladimir Putin to accept it. The US warns Russia that if it continues the war, Washington may step back from negotiations and consider more sanctions. The proposal calls for an immediate, unconditional 30-day ceasefire. The White House says US President Donald Trump is hoping for a direct meeting between Russia and Ukraine in Istanbul on Monday.
And the president has been clear from the very beginning of this conflict that he wants to see this conflict solved on the negotiating table, not on the battlefield. And he's told that to both leaders, again, both publicly and privately. So hopefully next week it will move the ball forward in this.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia has failed to deliver a promised memorandum outlining a potential ceasefire deal. Despite assurances after Russian President Vladimir Putin's call with US President Donald Trump on the 19th of May, Ukraine, its allies and Turkey say they have not received any document. Kyiv says it submitted its proposal earlier this week and urged Moscow to present its version before the next proposed meeting on Monday in Istanbul. Zelensky says Moscow is stalling to undermine the process and avoid accountability.
Even the so-called memorandum they promised and seemingly prepared for more than a week has still not been seen by anyone. Ukraine didn't get it. Our partners didn't get it. Even Turkey, which was hosting the first meeting, didn't get the new agenda. Despite promises to the contrary, and first of all promises to the United States of America, to President Trump. Another Russian deceit.
In a significant step towards deepening international ties, Uzbekistan and Italy have elevated their relationship to the level of strategic partnership. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni met in the historic city of Samarkand, where a series of groundbreaking agreements were signed.
During high-level discussions held in Samarkand, the President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni adopted a joint declaration that formally established a strategic partnership between the two countries. A formal ceremony was held in the presence of both leaders, where a series of newly signed bilateral agreements were exchanged. These accords span a wide range of areas, including the promotion and mutual protection of investments, cooperation in the field of critical raw materials, and joint efforts on migration and mobility. The country is also committed to a deeper partnership in sustainable development, environmental protection, and the preservation of cultural heritage. Notable agreements were signed to enhance collaboration with the Italian Climate Fund and the Italian Confederation of Agriculture. Key green development initiatives were also launched in partnership with prominent Italian companies, including Sogesid and Ansalado. These efforts are expected to contribute to both nations' long-term environmental and industrial goals. Beyond governmental cooperation, the visit featured the execution of a number of significant partnership instruments. This includes collaborative frameworks with the National Research Center of Italy, strategic industrial alliances with companies such as Siemens and Danieli, and an academic memorandum of understanding with the University of Perugia. Together, these extensive agreements underscore a shared commitment to strengthening bilateral ties across economic, environmental, academic, and technological domains. Recent data also highlights the success of ongoing economic collaboration. Bilateral trade between Uzbekistan Uzbekistan and Italy has nearly tripled in recent years, propelled by a broader scope of commerce and strengthened economic ties.
Kazakhstan is constructing 5 new railway lines aimed at strengthening trade routes with China and Central Asia. The projects span the country from the Chinese border in the east to regions near Uzbekistan in the south, improving transport corridors that link Asia with Europe. A key route near completion is the Dostik-Mointi line, expected to open next month and significantly boost cargo capacity. In addition to new tracks, several older lines across the country are being modernised with faster, smarter traffic control systems. Customs chiefs from the Economic Cooperation Organisation concluded their meeting in Tehran. Regional cooperation and streamlining cross-border procedures was at the heart of the agenda.
Tehran was the host city for the 10th high-level meeting of customs chiefs from the Economic Cooperation Organization on Wednesday. The one-day event signaled growing momentum for economic integration across the region. The in-person attendees included customs authorities from Iran, Turkey, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan and Pakistan. Their counterparts from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan joined virtually, reflecting the hybrid nature of modern diplomacy. Held under the banner of strengthening regional connectivity, the meeting zeroed in on facilitating smoother customs processes and enhancing the efficiency of transit corridors linking ECO member states. Among the key partners present was the International Road Transport Union, underscoring the importance of road freight and global standards in trade facilitation. The eco-region bridging South Asia, Central Asia and the Middle East holds vast potential as a trade and transit hub. But challenges such as customs delays, inconsistent regulations and outdated infrastructure continue to impede progress. These meetings sought to address these bottlenecks through practical cooperation. Participants discussed initiatives to digitize customs services, boost coordination in anti-smuggling efforts, and align with international best practices. The meeting also reviewed progress on implementing earlier agreements, such as the Eco-Transit Framework Agreement and the Regional Customs Data Exchange Protocol.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said his country and Armenia stand to gain from ongoing efforts to normalise relations. Erdogan said that the normalisation process is moving forward gradually and could pave the way for peace and mutual benefit. He also urged Iran to support plans for the Zangezur corridor, a proposed transport route through southern Armenia. With talks progressing between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Erdogan said peace between Yerevan and Baku is now on the horizon. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev met with US Senator Steve Daines in Baku in a new push to deepen bilateral ties. Daines congratulated Azerbaijan on its Independence Day and praised the country's peacekeeping role in Afghanistan, especially during the Kabul airport evacuation. Aliyev expressed gratitude and highlighted a letter from the US president that pointed to growing opportunities in energy security and trade. The meeting also underscored Azerbaijan's rising importance as a regional logistics hub along the Middle Corridor. Georgia's Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze has backed the prospect of joining the European Union but warned membership must not come at the cost of Georgian national identity. Speaking at an event in Budapest, he accused Western institutions of pushing gender ideology and undermining traditional values. Kobakidze said that Georgia's path to the EU must protect its faith and identity. Tbilisi applied for membership in 2022, but the process has been paused indefinitely amid allegations of democratic backsliding. The EU's new strategy for the Black Sea region places Georgia and its broader region at the centre. Our Nini Nikolashvili has the details in Tbilisi.
The European Union has unveiled a new strategy for the Black Sea region, the one that directly concerns Georgia, both as a coastal state and as a crucial link between East and West. With security and sustainable development at its core, the plan reflects Brussels' sharpened geopolitical focus following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The EU's new strategy underlines deeper cooperation with 6 key partners, including Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine, Turkey, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. For Tbilisi, this is a clear opportunity to reaffirm its European path and to strengthen its role as a reliable partner as new corridors of transport, energy, and digital infrastructure take shape across the South Caucasus. Central to the strategy is the creation of a maritime security hub integrating data from the EU and Black Sea partners. This is a move with clear implications for Georgia's port cities, where security and trade interests now go hand in hand. But beyond the security, the project also offers economic benefits. With EU's Global Gateway initiative in play, the investments are expected to flow into the connectivity projects, potentially linking Georgian, Azerbaijani, and Central Asian networks more tightly with European markets. Brussels insists that strategy is not just a reaction to Russia's aggression, but a long-term shift policy. Still, time is telling. As Russia's actions continue to destabilize the Black Sea, the EU is moving to assert a more unified presence, the one that supports the rule of law, green development, and regional resilience. For Tbilisi and its partners, this would be a new leverage, but also new responsibilities of shaping the future of the region, where peace and stability are increasingly interlinked. This is Nini Nicoleshvili reporting from Tbilisi, A News.
The Champions League final is set as Paris Saint-Germain face Inter Milan in Munich. Both clubs are chasing redemption and silverware. There's transfer news from Chelsea, Liverpool and Arsenal, plus all the latest from the French Open. Our Nick Summerby brings us all the latest updates from the world of sports.
Wow, what a weekend we have. It's the Champions League final. Paris Saint-Germain versus Inter Milan. Wow, what a game. We've got there eventually. There was a new format which was brought in, which has helped Paris Saint-Germain because they lost in the early stages. They got beat by Arsenal, got beat by Atletico and by Munich, but then they picked it up. And boy, did they pick it up. Huge results against Liverpool, Villa, Arsenal. Absolutely massive. Manchester City as well earlier on in the season, and it started to gel. Luis Enrique, who has been there with Barcelona and won it, so he understands what it's all about. But he's got these players. There's no more huge names. There's no more Messi, no more Mbappe, no more Neymar. They've got this young team, a lot of Portuguese players in there as well, but at the right age. And you get the feeling with Paris Saint-Germain, the next 2 or 3 years are going to be very exciting. And maybe it's going to be this weekend where it starts off. This will be the first time that Paris Saint-Germain win the Champions League. So you'd imagine what the party will be. You've got the Emir of Qatar, I'd imagine he will be there because obviously Qatar own Paris Saint-Germain and the work what they've done and put into the football club. So they're on the verge of something very exciting, but they're playing against Inter Milan. Inter Milan only played a couple of seasons ago in the final, same as Paris Saint-Germain have just played in the final. They both lost, but Inter Milan lost against Manchester City, and there was arguments there that they played better and deserved to win, so they want to put that right. Inzaghi, there is talks with him at the end of the game. He might be going to Saudi Arabia, but I don't think that's the time to talk. But what an exciting, experienced side. And if we can mention one player, Azerbi, he plays at the back. He scored in the semi-final. And if you look about his career, and if you can sum up Inter Milan, what they are really all about. He fought off cancer twice, and all of a sudden now he's playing. And what would that mean to his story to pick up big ears? When they say big ears, that is what it's like to pick the Champions League medal up, because it looks like big ears. They have history. They've won it 3 times in Inter Milan, and in the last game they beat Barcelona. They did concede a lot in the 2 games, but the second half in one of the games they look flat out. They look gone. They look finished. But they have that determination. They have that Italian drive. They know how to absorb a game. They know how to nullify it. They know how to win a game of football. So we've got the perfect matchup this weekend. Do not miss it. Saturday night. It's in Munich. All our eyes, everyone's eyes, are going to be watching that game, and I don't think it's going to let us down at all. I'm going to go for some news as well in the world of football. Delap, who's a centre forward for Ipswich, is just on the verge of signing for Chelsea. They are looking for a centre forward. Let's not forget as well, they've just won the Conference League, Europa Conference League, which is wonderful, against Real Betis. Cole Palmer with wonderful 2 assists. They were trailing 1-0. Then with his 2 wonderful passes, one was for Jackson. and then all of a sudden after that he just got a grip of the game and they won that comfortably. So you get the feeling with Chelsea, with them playing Champions League next year, they're starting to do the business and it's all starting to come together. Todd Bowley took over the football club, spent nearly £1 billion, brought 40-odd top pros in. Then all of a sudden it just was not happening. Now all of a sudden Maresca, the manager, looks like the man who has steadied the ship. He's got them the trophy, he's got them in the Champions League, and you think next season can they really kick on? But they're starting to do business. Also Manchester United, we know the disaster what they've had under coach Amarim. He was on the microphone at Old Trafford at the final game saying this is not good enough, this is the worst it's ever been. If you stick with us, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. Well, where they needed to go on holiday, they've gone to Malaysia on a sponsorship deal, which is a game of football, and they've got beat 1-0 by some Malaysian all-stars. There's a video around where they've got an open deck bus around, nobody is there. I mean, what is going on at Manchester United? He then says about the boo, just go on holiday, come back, do the business, get some good players into the football club and hopefully kick on next year. But this disaster at Manchester United just keeps going on. Also as well, Frimpong, he's in Liverpool at the moment having talks with them, looking like he's going to get a he's going to be signing. He is a really exciting fullback, so he will be a massive addition to the squad. And you're looking at Liverpool now, looking at the likes of Manchester City, who are in the World Club Cup all throughout this campaign. Looking at Arsenal, thinking, well, hang on a minute, if we get our signings in now, we could do back-to-back. So keep your eye on Liverpool. They're looking to move quickly. Keller, the goalkeeper as well from Liverpool. There's a lot of interest with him. West Ham, Leeds, Brentford. What a goalkeeper he is, and I think he'll be not hugely missed, which he would be anywhere at Liverpool, but I just think a huge gain for any Premier League club or anywhere around the world. He's that good, so keep your eye on him. Zupimendi to Arsenal, that looks like that's going to get sealed, and then obviously the big question, when is the centre forward going to come to Arsenal? Moving on to the French Open, Jack Draper, talking a lot about him at the moment as we're building up towards Wimbledon. He's through to the third round. Cameron Norrie as well, and Jacob Fernie, two other British tennis players who are really doing well. Alcaraz plays today and Djokovic plays tomorrow, so it's really all starting to heat up here. I will be back with you in about a week's time, but either way, don't miss this weekend. Champions League is the one to watch.
Now for something lighter, we go to Turkey, where one beekeeper has a very special prescription for migraine, stress or sleepless nights. Let's take a look.
Tucked away in the Aegean hills of Turkey, this may look like a regular bee farm. Meet Hossein Ceylan, a third-generation beekeeper with a different type of prescription, breathing in the air from his beehives.
Mostly there are people who come here to benefit from bee products. I saw the benefits of bee air and beehives to human health. Migraine patients come, depressed people come. They both rest and benefit from all natural products.
It's called apitherapy, where patients breathe in bee air through a ventilator system in the hopes of feeling better. It's supposed to help with conditions from allergies to migraines.
This is a method that is widely used in the world. Apitherapy is actually something that covers all of these, and they restore health to the person without harming them at all.
But what about Western medicine? Well, that's still essential, says Hussein, but this could be a sweet addition. He has lobbied for years for the sector to be accepted, conducting research and presenting findings to officials.
We are not against what we call Western medicine. I am trying to bring API therapy into medicine, to be honest.
Seated across from the beehives with ventilators on their faces, the guests take deep breaths.
This is my first time coming here. I've had 2 surgeries. My immune system was weakened. I came to try it.
This smell seems familiar, like it's from my childhood. It relaxes me both psychologically and physically.
It may not be officially recognized, but apitherapy is gaining ground, one breath at a time.
These are the updates for the hour. Stay tuned for more and have a wonderful morning.